In this video, I want to discuss exactly, from a technical point of view, how this clarinet actually works. Okay, quick disclaimer, I'm not a professional clarinet player. I'm much more comfortable playing guitar or piano or drums or that sort of thing. This does not fit into my repertoire. This is more of a hobby. The other thing, I have never built a clarinet, nor do I fix them. So the stuff I'm about to share with you is stuff that I've learned as I've gotten to know this. I love playing this. But yeah, it's a technical approach as to how this works, all of the keys and the different sounds we can get in the scales. But to explain that, I feel like it's best that we start with something like this. This is an Indian flute, beautiful sounding instrument. And this is a much better place to start because it's a much simpler version in concept of what our clarinet does. The clarinet's a lot more complicated, but we'll get there. To explain this, I'm going to divide this into 3 sections. I'm very aware that the clarinet actually has 5 sections, but for the sake of this video, I'm just using 3, just to make things easier. For starters, we have the mouthpiece. Now, the mouthpiece on any wind instrument is where the sound is generated. If it wasn't for the mouthpiece, you blow into this, you just get air flowing through. You wouldn't have a sound. You have to have something to create that sound. Okay? And the way this mouthpiece works is there's a little cutout there that when you blow into it, the air is agitated, and you get the sound of a whistle. Wasn't a very clear whistle sound, but you get my points, all right? The second part that I want to talk about is the entire length of this instrument, which in this case dictates the key. You'll see there's an F written on the mouthpiece. That's because this instrument's in the key of F. If it didn't have any holes and I blew through it, the sound you would get, which if I'm covering all these holes, you get the same idea, sounds like an F. Okay? The thing of it is, if it didn't have any holes, it wouldn't be very versatile. It'd be a very simple little instrument that wouldn't have much use. So we need a way to adjust the length of the instrument. That's the basic concept here, by the way, is that whenever we're changing notes, we're adjusting the length. And there's 3 ways that we can do that, okay? The first is we could just cut out various lengths of this and tie them together. For example, pan flutes. It's exactly what this is, all right? Now, the shorter the pipe, the higher the pitch, and the longer the pipe, the lower the pitch. Okay? This is made of plastic. It's not exactly the best quality, but it'll do for this video. The alternative would be to take a flute like this and insert a plug that can be adjusted. You can pull it out or push it in. We call that a slide whistle. Now, I used to have one, but it either broke or went missing. I'm not quite sure. So instead, I'm just going to show you a picture right here of what a slide whistle looks like. Now, a slide whistle is difficult to learn because you really have to get to know exactly where the different notes are as you pull and push that slide in. And so invariably, instead of having precise notes, so like with this, when I put a finger down, I'm exactly in the correct pitch. With a slide whistle, you invariably end up sliding into that pitch as you try to find it, all right? That being said, the third way that we can change pitch is by the holes. Right? We can cut holes into this, and that can be our way of changing pitch. Essentially, the more holes I have covered, the lower the pitch. And the more holes that I uncover, the higher the pitch. Okay, it's that simple. Now, there's 2 more quick things I'd like to point out that I find fascinating about this flute. Firstly, the horizontal positioning of the hole makes 0 difference in terms of pitch. Okay, only time you will see that happening, if a hole is like slightly off center, will be due to comfort, because obviously your fingers aren't all the same length. So there are some flutes and whistles and things out there where the holes will be slightly off center for that reason, but it doesn't affect pitch. It's only the vertical positioning that affects pitch. The other thing is the size of the hole also affects pitch. So whoever made this may have, I don't know exactly how it was made, but probably marked out, measured and marked these holes, drilled them And if one was slightly flat, all that person would have had to do is take a sharp blade or something and cut the hole slightly bigger. Which incidentally, you can always sharpen a hole, you can't flatten it. One more quick minor detail which is difficult to see on this flute, not all these holes are the same distance apart. Some of them are slightly closer, and that's down to intonation. If you think about the keys on your piano, you have groups of 3 and 2 black keys. There are some white notes that don't have black keys in between them, and it's a similar concept to what's going on here. I mean, for instance, if you're going to go from an F to a G, there's a black note between those 2 notes. But if you're going from a B to a C, there is no black note. So you're actually going up a semitone. We're getting a little bit too much into music theory, which is not what I was planning to do in this video, so we'll leave that alone for now. But yeah, those were just some things I found fascinating. Let's move on to the clarinet. Now the clarinet, I guess we'll start with the mouthpiece, just like we did with the flute. This mouthpiece is a reed. By the way, on a brass instrument, it's your lips that actually vibrate, that create the sound, just in case you were curious. On a woodwind like this, a clarinet, oboe, bassoon, it's a reed. This reed vibrates, and that is what creates the sound. Now the next thing I would talk about on this clarinet is the length of the instrument itself, except for the fact that the length does not tell us what key it's in. Alright? This instrument's in the key of B flat. If this had no holes and you blew through it, the note you would get is a D. That's the lowest note you can play on a clarinet. Now I'll explain how that works in a minute, because I want to first explore the keys, the holes in the keys. Basic fingering, the first fingering you learn, which is exactly how I've got my fingers now. Well, it's similar to a flute in a way. The flute that we just looked at had 6 holes, right? This clarinet also has 6 holes, as you can see. But it also has a thumb hole right on the back there, so that's 7 holes. Okay, but the beauty of the clarinet is that we can extend down by closing more holes, right? Remember, just like our flutes, the more holes that we uncover, the higher the pitch, and the more holes that we cover, the lower the pitch. Well, we can cover more holes down below here using those 2 keys there. There's that key and there's that key, and that one closes the first hole that we can't reach with our finger. This one closes that first hole and the next hole, and that's how you get lower notes. That's how you extend, is by using these keys. We can reach those same notes, by the way, with those 2 keys with my left pinky. That's kind of what your pinkies are for, to extend the clarinet down. It also helps with sharps and flats. There's a couple of those there. We can also extend the clarinets up. So like I just said, the more holes you uncover, the higher the pitch. Well, once I've got all my fingers out of the way, we can then press that key down, which opens a hole quite near the top, and we can open that hole as well. Both of these keys pressed down at the same time will open those 2 holes, and you get even higher pitches, 2 extra notes, in fact. Okay, and that gives us 2 octaves. I'll point out also that while the flute uses a diatonic scale, which is to say it's just a F major because it's in the key of F. It doesn't have sharps and flats. The clarinet is able to do a chromatic scale, which includes sharps and flats, and that's those tiny little keys there, and that one also. And 2 of these ones with my pinky, 2 of those. Some of these guys here can also help with sharps and flats. So we get 2 octaves with sharps and flats. And there's one more thing I'll point out with regards to the instruments, and that's the register key. So if you press that, you get an extra 2 octaves higher than that. Right? It's actually a very versatile instrument. It's important though to remember we call it a register key and not an octave key, because you're not going up by 8 notes, you're going up by 12 notes. And what I mean by that is that as you go up, okay, you get to your highest notes. When you play that register key, the next notes after your highest note without the register key, your fingering looks like that, not with the pinkies down. Okay, and the reason I point that out, how can I explain this? So if I play that note without register key, and then if I apply the register key, that's going to take me up 12 notes, not 8. That's basically what it means. And the reason for that is because of what I just explained, where you go up to your highest notes, which is those ones, and then your register key with those will now give you the very next notes in the scale. That's why it goes up by 12. Interesting to note also, I must have that hole covered to use my register key, because that's just how scales work. Okay, now I did say that I was going to explain why the clarinet is different to the flute, in that the length of this instrument doesn't tell us the key. I'm going to show you two diagrams to explain how this actually works. The key that the Indian flute is in is F, okay, and its scale on paper looks like this. Alright, so all of those notes, F is basically all of the holes covered, and as you can see, it starts on F. We can only go up from that point, okay? On the clarinet, the diagram looks like this, okay? And you'll notice the B flat, which is the key that this instrument is in, sits roughly in the middle. The idea being that we can move up and we can move down. Alright, that's the basic reason why the B flat sits in the middle. The fingering, by the way, for B flats is just those 3 fingers and your thumb down. Folks, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's been fascinating to you. If you have enjoyed it, feel free to like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one.